I'm so honored to be here, and thanks for this warm reception. And I want to thank Dr. Corey and Dr. Moeller, and especially, I've got to thank the theology department here at Biola University. This is so cool. We are so excited at Joni and Friends, because with the help of Dr. Langner and Dr. Cunningham, and especially Dr. Kathy McReynolds, there will be an integration seminar in the Bible department starting spring of 2008. And it's going to be on the theology of suffering and disability. My hands don't work. I can't applaud your theology department for that. But this course will mean that so many more disabled people like me will be reached with the good news of Jesus, because I tell you what, statistics are skyrocketing. Disability is on the rise. What do you do with those kids with autism in Sunday school who keep screaming and jumping up and down? What do you do with elderly people who have Alzheimer's? How are churches going to be prepared? Well, I am proud to announce that Biola University is the first in the country to have a course in the Bible department on reaching people like me, families like mine, in this Theology of Suffering and Disability course being offered in spring 2008. Guys, the first in the country. Applaud your department for that. Yes. That's wonderful. And Dr. Kathy McReynolds and Dr. Cunningham and Dr. Langner are working with our team at Joni and Friends at the International Disability Center. If ever you want to take a hike up to the San Fernando Valley, just go west on the 101, come visit us at the International Disability Center. And when you do, you'll meet our team at the Christian Institute on Disability. We're on the front lines, and we are battling a lot of the bioethic questions as there is advancements in stem cell research. Of course, we love that, but we want to make certain it's the right kind of stem cell research, not destroying human embryos to get their stem cells, but using adult tissues. Other questions related to tough, sticky ethical issues. And we want to arm Christians with the answers. And so I want the team from the Joni and Friends International Disability Center, including Steve Bundy, who's the managing director, to stand up, because these are the guys on the front lines of that debate. Would you friends please stand and welcome them? Thank you for letting me borrow your hands. Mine don't work so well. Thank you. That course will cover a lot of practical issues. What do you say to people like me? Are we handy-capable, handy-coopable? Are we physically challenged? Are we physically impaired? Motion impaired. Motionally challenged. Or just special. What are we? Well, we'll help you understand who we are and what we can do with our abilities in our disability. But one of the toughest questions that I want to speak to you today, and I'm not going to skate on the surface. This is no smoke and mirrors up here. This is not your, thin on the ice testimony. Because I think some of the toughest questions you got to wrestle with are the ones I wrestled with when I was your age, when I had broken my neck in that diving accident. You saw the images. I was your age. All my best memories of what it felt like to be on my feet are frozen in your time. And I had some tough questions about the goodness of God. How in the world, God, can you be so good? How can you say, "Oh, you are merciful and compassionate"? And here, when I was in high school, right before I graduated, oh God, I had prayed that I might have a closer walk with you. So this is your idea of an answer to prayer? Man, you're never going to be trusted another one of my prayers again. Gee. Is this how you treat your new believers? Quadriplegia, unable to walk, can't use my hands. You can identify. I mean, you are at the age that I was at when I had crunched my neck. I used to lie in that hospital bed, wrenching my head back and forth on the pillow at night after visiting hours were over, hoping to break my neck at some higher level to end my life that way. You can identify, and you don't even have to be a quadriplegic. Who is this God? It's the kind of question that we'll be tackling in that theology of suffering and disability class. I mean, does God say, into each life a little rain must fall, and then does he aim a hose in Earth's general direction to see who gets the wettest? That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I thought my diving accident was a fluke of fate, a flip of the coin, and if God had anything to do with it at all, I figured that when I had been poised on that raft, ready to take that dive, I figured at that point God must have been off somewhere listening to the prayers of more obedient saints, Christians he really liked. I felt like he didn't like me because although I had been a Christian in high school, Jesus really wasn't preeminent in my life. My boyfriend was on a Friday night. And so I was struggling with rebellion. And I had figured that maybe God really was listening to the prayers of saints that he liked better. Or maybe he was fulfilling people's prayer requests about cancer. Or maybe he was off in the Middle East somewhere fulfilling prophecy. Or I didn't know where he was, but he certainly wasn't there at that raft when I took that dive. And perhaps since his back was turned, I figured that it was then Satan who snuck up behind me and put his foot in the small of my back and gave a hard shove, and off I go into the water, breaking my neck, lying face down. And I figured that around about that point, God turned around. He saw me floating face down in the water, and he kind of went, "Oh, man, what'd you go and do that for?" And then I figured he had to quick go off and run and get his mop and bucket and spick and span and hammer and nails and glue gun, and then go running after my life, trying to fix it back together for my good and his glory. I figured that God had been caught off guard when my diving accident had happened, that somehow there was some kind of monkey wrench that had been thrown into his plans for my life. A view like that shows God as helpless and as held hostage by my handicap as I was. But that's what I thought. And I tell you, frankly, it really scared me. It scared me. I mean, God had to be bigger than that. Now, I had enough sense to know that the Bible probably contained answers for my problems, my pain, my paralysis, my situation. I figured the Bible probably contained answers. I just had nowhere to look. I mean, those are big questions. If God is good, why all this suffering? After I got out of the hospital, a young man knocked on the back door of my house. He was a sophomore at the high school that I had graduated from 2 years before. And he had heard that his neighbor, me, Joni, had really some tough questions about the Lord. He had heard that I, a senior, was struggling, and so his name was Steve Estes. He said that he'd be happy to help me walk through the Bible, tackle some of those tough questions. As long as I provided lots of pizza and RC colas, he would be there every Thursday night. And I'll never forget that first Thursday night over pizza and RC colas. The first question I asked him was, okay, how can this be God's will? It's a good question. It was a good question 40 years ago when I sat at that table with my friend, and it's a good question now. Perhaps some of you are wrestling with that question, and you don't have a broken neck, but maybe you're struggling with a broken heart or a broken home. Well, welcome to the Theology of Suffering and Disability, Spring Semester 101, right?